Good morning. This is the BLAINESWORLD Show, heard each Wednesday here at 9 a.m. on the BLAINESWORLD Facebook page. And you'll also be able to find us at some other places as well. I'm your host, Blaine Greenfield, in my Zoom studio in lovely downtown Fairview, North Carolina. And each week we focus on the Asheville theater scene, as well as on positive news and information about people and organizations in both Western North Carolina and throughout the country. And to that end, it's my pleasure to introduce our first two guests, actually. They are Detective Debbie LeCroy with the Buncombe County Sheriff's Department, and she's also with Kora, the department's emotional support dog. And if you can just say hello to Kora, if she's still with us, can you?
Oh, yes,
She can
she's
pop up.
here.
Okay, you can little pop up. I don't know if you can lift her, but anyway, that's Kora. Oh, I love it. And Kora's what kind of dog?
She is a golden doodle.
Okay, very cool. And Kora, you can wave to all your fans and friends on Facebook, and you can too, Detective. You can wait there. Oh, I love that's Kora. Detective Debbie LeCroy has many years of experience in law enforcement and criminal defense investigations, holding positions of line patrol officer, field training officer, and criminal investigator. Most of her experiences have been in the area of property crimes, sexual assaults, breaking and entering cases, homicide, and juvenile cases. She continues today with much passion and dedication in law enforcement, as when she first started out. Good health and wellness are also a big part of Debbie's life, along with a love of animals. And so the question, Debbie, I always ask, you as a kid grew up where?
I grew up in Asheville.
Okay, super. So a real person born and raised in
Oh, yes.
Asheville. And
Yes.
when you were a child growing up in Asheville, did you always know you wanted to be a police officer?
I did not. It was probably more toward high school that I had an interest in law enforcement and started, leaning in that direction of criminal justice.
And so you went to high school, then did you study it further or you just jumped into it? How did you get involved?
Yes, I went to college and uh, studied criminal justice, and then I started my career at Asheville Police Department many years ago. And while I was at Asheville Police Department, I started out on the road. Then I went into criminal investigations and worked a little bit, assisted with drug operations while I was at APD. I was a training officer, and then left law enforcement for a short bit to become a mom. And I was fortunate enough to be a stay-at-home mom, and then got back into the profession years later after my kids were a little bit grown and in school. And here I am.
And so how did you get from that point in time to all of a sudden becoming involved with Cora, the emotional support dog? How'd that come into play?
Well, I started at Buncombe County Sheriff's Office, and I've started out on the road. I started out in court security, moved on to be a road deputy, then went into investigations, and I've done different types of investigations while at the sheriff's office. With a lot of uh, civil unrest through the years, through the past couple of years, our profession has taken a little bit of a hit. So
Just a little bit of
I,
a hit.
yeah, yes. So I did some research on emotional support dogs in law enforcement, or for first responders in general, and came up with a lot of interesting um, benefits for the profession and for the community. So during my research, I did, I also found a couple of breeders and people that had golden doodles. I had golden doodles, growing up, and when I was married, I also had golden doodles. My children are familiar with them, and they're wonderful dogs. Um, so I found a lady down in Rutherford County that was interested in donating Cora for a therapy pup uh, cause. And I found a friend of mine has a child that has autism, and they have they have a service dog for their child. So I went to Highland Canine and spoke to Erin Ferguson. Her and her husband, Jason, Aaron and Jason Ferguson, they own Highland Canine in Harmony, North Carolina. So and also they're both previously, before they got into training dogs, they were law enforcement
Oh,
officers. So they know the profession. Aaron trains dogs for autistic children, hearing impaired, vision impaired, PTSD, things like that. And so she was willing to help me. I didn't know at the time if the sheriff would agree to it or not. And so just I we had this litter of pups. We had one that they were going to donate, and I thought, well, worst case scenario, if the sheriff doesn't, like the idea, I would, just pay and keep her for myself. But I felt a strong passion and for this idea, and I really care about the emotional well-being of my fellow officers as well as the community. And I felt Kora would be a great way to soften the interactions between law enforcement and the community. She's just, when you meet her, you can't help but
well,
just feel
same
good
thing.
about it.
I'm meeting her for the first time
Yes.
on Facebook Live, and I'm saying to myself, boy, I'd love to meet her, because the incredible thing about this is she puts a smile on your face, which
Oh,
is,
yes.
it's just, yeah, I'm looking at her and I can't help it. But talk a little bit about then, so you kind of got Kora. I'm fascinated by the idea you had to be trained, I guess, to use as an emotional support dog.
Oh, yes. Oh,
But
yes.
talk about what
Um,
that entailed.
She stayed in Harmony, North Carolina for 7 months, and they have 70 acres down at their training facility, and they train more than just service dogs and therapy dogs. They also train, apprehension, drug dogs, things like that. But they have like a home set up where these dogs are trained to whatever special needs an individual may have. But I actually picked out, backing up a little bit, I actually picked out another dog. Um, Her brother, the Aaron came to the breeder and I picked out a boy dog. And so and I liked Kora too, but I just wanted Aaron to choose maybe which one would be better suited for, to be a therapy dog for the public and for our sheriff's office. So um, the thing of it is she took Kora and she took the brother and another sister because and Aaron said, you don't have to decide at this point. We'll just see how the training goes, and you could make a decision a little bit later. And so as they started training these animals, she felt Kora would be better suited. They take them into schools, they take them into nursing homes, they take them into hospitals, they take them downtown. They really familiarize these animals with about everything that they could possibly run into. And
Now, were you involved in that training as well? In other words,
no,
no?
I was not involved in her training. I did go down to see her a couple of times, and then when she was ready to go, Aaron brought her to the sheriff's office. Probably about 5.5 months into it, introduced her as well as some of the other siblings to the sheriff and some of the other command staff. And then at the 7-month mark, she brought her back and I went through training with her, a full day of training, just how, her commands, what she does, what to do, what not to do. So that was, we went downtown, we were in big crowds and things like that. We went over her, eating, her, just about everything that, that I would need to know being a handler. But I certainly had questions thereafter, because, it was a big responsibility. You come in, and initially I thought she would be very useful for our department, the stress that we have, as law enforcement officers, but and utilize her for children, at the Family Justice Center and kids in crisis. And it became more of we started getting a lot of community requests for her, and her calendar is filled up. Like I am a detective and, very busy with that, but I also, I also do take community requests. We have a Facebook set up, Deputy Kora, as well as an Instagram account. And it's really all I can do to keep up because she's so popular. She's gaining, some people they'll message me and just say they just love to see her. And that puts a smile on their face, or they just like to see her walk around, around the office, or I try to get her around a lot of the county offices. I go to some office every week, and so she's very busy. We go to community events, proms, sporting events, races, just you name it, I've been there.
Well, the problem I imagine is that people do fall in love with her. Like in the 10 minutes here, I'm falling in love with her. And Cynthia, my wife, and I are looking at adopting either a dog or a cat. So I better not have her see the show, because I'm telling you, she's going to want that dog. Talk a little bit about Debbie, then like a typical day. So you mentioned, for example, you go into schools. When you go into schools, what do you do when you go there? And how does Kora interact with the kids?
Well, I kind of made, Erin Ferguson and her husband, they do the training, but I've kind of, when she got to Buncombe County, she was in a Halloween event that we have at the sheriff's office. It's we provided, a little activity for the kids in the community to come, a safe place. They get to come, get candy and, do some activities and things like that. And so Kora dressed up as a bumblebee. I dressed her up in this really cute costume. Well, the kids loved it, and then the adults loved it. So I started, if I got invited to a school and it was a theme, I'd dress her up in whatever the theme of the day was. And then I thought, she needs a uniform. So I took one of our uniform tops, made her a uniform, put her a gold tutu on and a little gold top hat. And so it ends up where the adults love her dressed up too. So I can take her downtown now, and she's like, everybody's, hey, there's Deputy Kora. She's known for her little outfits. And if you go on her Facebook page, you'll see kind of what we do for the community. Her wardrobe's bigger than mine. She loves to dress up.
Now, what about people interacting with her? Are they allowed to pet her, or? Yeah,
absolutely. She does what's called deep compression therapy, and it's like, I don't know if you've ever had a weighted blanket.
Oh yeah, right.
But that's kind of the thought behind that with these dogs and service dogs that are that they are given to autistic children or adults. They sometimes will lay on them to give them comfort. And so Kora does that as well. So we'll have people in the office, like you said, a typical day for her would be come in. She comes in with me. Uh, she hears the door open and she goes and greets everybody that comes in the morning. We're based out of
Right.
Leicester Crossing, or Leicester if you're a native from there. So we have patrol out there too, sharing our office. And so every time the door opens, she runs to the door and greets everybody. And when you come in, she goes and gets one. She's got a toy box. She goes and gets one of her toys, and she wants you to play tug of war. So, if you're having a bad day, she's not gonna be ignored. She'll come over and, put her arm up through your elbow, the little opening, under your chair, pokes her head up under there, and it's like she's not gonna stop until you say good morning to her.
Can she tell if people are having a bad day?
She tends to kind of surround herself with people that are a little more stressed. And when I bring her into schools, in the classrooms, it's the teachers have made an observation that sometimes Kora will, kind of go to the children that might have a little more stressful life, at home, or are troubled or something like that. She can sense that. These dogs are very good at doing that. And if somebody in the office is having a bad day, she goes right over and she'll crawl under their desk and take a nap, versus taking a nap under my desk. It's and I really have the whole sheriff's office to thank for they've helped me mold her into what she is, because when I take her, whether it's on the 4th floor to the main sheriff's office, everybody loves her. Everybody has treats for her. I have to be careful. She gives the biggest high fives that you can imagine. She does some tricks and stuff, but people relieve stress, the officers, the detectives, by throwing ball with her, playing tug of war. And it's just, she's been so wonderful, and everybody looks for her to come. If I walk in the door, they're like, oh, hey, Kora. And it's not a lot of, oh, hey, Debbie. It's not a lot of that. It's I'm
Well,
kind of left.
well, do you have that also, I guess? So when not working, Cora stays with you? Cora's your dog at home?
Yes, I handle her,
Yeah.
but I also I have the tough job of taking care of her at home. But to keep her training intact, I take her to the grocery store. I take her to restaurants. Every therapy dogs are invited. Service dogs, they are allowed in, everywhere. Therapy dogs and emotional support dogs, I've never had any place ask her to leave. She's very well behaved. When we go into a restaurant, she goes under the table and basically just sits very quietly while we finish our meal. And so she goes pretty much everywhere with me.
And same thing too, I guess you get the same reaction when you go elsewhere, when you're not working, to the supermarket or a restaurant or something. People go crazy over her?
Oh yes, yes. They I have to, if I really want to be in and out somewhere, I'll leave her at home, because it doesn't, of course, it doesn't take me as long to get through the grocery store when I don't have her. And of course I stop and speak to everyone, and she's getting so known now that people will say, hey, there's Deputy Kora. And so she's been wonderful in our community. The sheriff said, well, nobody asked how I'm doing anymore. Kora's doing.
Yeah, or I guess just the opposite, that when you're there, they probably want Kora, and you could stay home, or they just leave you there.
Right.
The When you're with Kora, let me ask you this in general: if people should see her in the street, or you, and in general, not just Kora, I guess, an emotional sport dog, how should they behave toward the dog?
Well, just, it's always polite to ask, can I pet her? And that's actually in our policy at the sheriff's office. We do have canine policy, and that, for therapy dogs, and that is in the policy. So it's just a courtesy to ask if they can pet her, and not be loud and obnoxious, and, just, everybody wants to give her a big high five. She is treat, she likes a high five and then a treat, but she can't give like 50 at one time. When I take her into a school, she can't give everybody high fives, but I usually let the teachers pick out, a couple of students to do the high fives and the compression therapy on them. So, just a courtesy, just to ask.
What about when they see you and taking pictures? Do you encourage that or allow that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
She definitely is a picture ham. She loves getting her picture taken, and when she sees you, when she sees a camera or something, she'll usually sit down, kind of cock her head back, and it's really kind of funny. Come here.
Show, if you can show. I want to get a picture of her
Let's go.
looking at the camera.
Come on. Up.
She's there. She is, and just
Hi.
wait.
Hello.
Give her a big smile, Kora. How heavy is Kora?
She is 60 pounds right now, and seems like she's still growing.
Is she? Will she still grow?
I keep saying no, but she keeps getting. Come here. Don't be shy.
Even in terms of you handling Kora, like, can you lift her now, or it's hard to lift her?
What? She's talking. I don't really ever have to lift her. If she's getting in and out of the car, she'll get in there herself. If I happen to give her a bath, she goes to hair the dog for her dog grooming. But occasionally I'll give her a bath and she gets in the bathtub. I'll just say, go get in the bathtub. Let's take a bath, and she'll go get in the bathtub by herself. But I don't really have to lift her up. She's pretty obedient.
Does she like getting baths?
Yes. And I brush her every morning and every night, and she looks forward to that. She hops up on the bed. I'll tell her, I'll say, let's brush her hair, and she knows exactly what I'm talking about. And she kind of rules the home,
How about the dog? Does she look forward to going to the dog groomer?
She does. She really loves Michelle and the other staff and her, and hair of the dog, and so she loves doing that. Tailgate Market gives, supplies her with her food, and she loves going in there because they have treats, and they've been very kind and generous to give her, to donate her food. Let's see. She loves going everywhere. If I don't go to work, if like last week I was on call, so I work nights, 4 p.m. to 2 a.m. And she was laying by the door at like 8 o'clock, like, where we need to go to work. It's time to go to work. And she just kind of sulked because she doesn't like days off. Like, if on the weekends, on days off, she sits by the door and just acts sad because she loves her job. She loves the community. She loves the sheriff's office. She's just, I've never seen a dog that loves to do, loves to be around people as much as she does.
When you approached the sheriff's office or the sheriff with the idea, what was their initial reaction?
The sheriff loved the idea, and the chief, um, Chief Blake, and I had to go up, presented it to Captain Edwards and then Chief Blake, and they gave gave me their blessings, and then it was presented to the sheriff, and he loved the idea. He actually had the idea previously, and he had always wanted to get a support or therapy dog for the community and for the agency, but it just, when it takes some time, and it did take some time to do the research for that. You don't want to just go out and buy a dog and bring it and think that everything's going to be okay. These animals do need to be trained to be as successful as Kora has been, and I really can't say enough about Highland Canine. They did a wonderful job with her. I went on vacation with my daughter, and they were kind enough to let me bring her back and let her stay there and just kind of touch up on her training while she was there. Because she's not, she is a pup, and but everybody has their own lives, and just to let her just go stay with somebody, it's a big responsibility, because she just doesn't, she needs to be trained, and she needs to have a routine, every day. And but if I have to go out of the office, the other detectives in the office are very good with her. They know, they know what to do. She will surf the trash cans every once in a while, but they know, how to take care of her and what to do if I need to go out for a minute.
Is she the only emotional support dog with the department?
Yes, she is.
Are there any other dogs with the department for other reasons?
We do have apprehension dogs and the drug dogs, and I believe we have a bomb dog. They're able to sniff gunpowder and things like that. So we have a great canine unit, and Kathy and Gray Norris are wonderful contributors to the canine unit. And Kathy, we call her Aunt Kathy, or Kora. She actually comes out to the events and helps me with events, and making sure, taking pictures, or making sure there's not too many people on her at one time, and because it can get a little chaotic, and she's very good with that. People, kids all over her, but Kathy's been wonderful to assist me, and her and her husband have donated a lot to our canine unit.
Has Kora met the other dogs in the canine unit?
Yes, we've done some events together, but we don't let them. They have very different jobs,
Right.
and so Kora's great with the community, and the other dogs have their job where you can't just let them
Sure.
kind of on a loose leash as I can Kora, and that's why we got her, because people love dogs and love animals, so people do want to pet the other dog, the other canines, but it's that is not the best for for the situation. Kora's much better to just be a community pup. We went out to a really fun event out in Barnardsville this past weekend, and she dressed up. She had a neon pink tutu on, a pink snorkel, and neon pink swim goggles. So, of course, all the kids, all the adults were just drawn to her. And, some of the other canine handlers that were there, but they didn't have their dogs there with them.
And lastly, how is she when people have other dogs? How is she with them?
She's good. She's very friendly. I took her to the big down at Carrier Park last weekend. They had a big event down there with there was probably 70 dogs, and she did wonderful. Occasionally she might bark if you have her at a distance, she might bark at them, but I think it's more her saying, "Hey, let's go play."
If folks
I
want
want to go play.
If folks want to reach you to find out more about getting Kora at a special event or to meet Kora as well, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
They can message me through her Facebook, Deputy Kora, and Kora is spelled with a K, Kora, or my phone number is 828-774-6249. That's my sheriff's office number. That's my direct number. And that's probably the best way to get in touch with me.
Okay.
Or to get in touch with Kora.
Great. I'd like to thank you, Detective LeCroy, for being my guest this first half hour on the Blaineswell Show. And I will look forward to meeting, no offense to you, but to meeting Kora sometime in the future.
Of course. Of
Great.
course.
Okay.
Thanks
an awful lot. Speak to you soon. Okay. Be well.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And as
Bye-bye.
Deputy LeCroy works her way out of the studio, we'll be kind of waiting for our next guest, and I think he's going to be with us in a second. And there he is. Good timing. Hey, Bob.
Hey, how are you?
Let me just mention, folks, that they're watching the Blaineswell Show here on Facebook Live, and I'm really pleased to introduce my second guest because I've been wanting to meet him since he came on board. And he is, and we'll ask you to explain why, Bob, in a second, but he is Robert Bob, Arleigh White, and that's a long first name. We'll talk about that in a second. He's the artistic director now at Asheville Community Theatre. And Bob, you can wave to all your fans and friends on Facebook world. Okay.
Hey, everybody.
And that's Bob. And if you would, Bob, first of all, just explain, the four names, and then we'll call you Bob.
In Jacksonville, Florida, where I've just come from, there were just a whole lot of Bob Whites. The joke is you can't throw a rock and not hit a Bob White. So there's a Bob White that ran a bank, and another one that ran an insurance company, and another one that walked a beat, and so on. And so I thought it would be useful to be Robert Arleigh White, so that they didn't get blamed for the things that I did, and I got the credit for the things that I did that were important. But I like for people to call me Bob. Bob White is an easy name to remember, and it's a friendly way of just being in touch with folks. I wish I had a nickel for every time somebody said, "Hey, that's the name of a bird, right?" So yeah.
And you're so right, because I remember I tried to reach you on Facebook, and there were maybe 2,700, Bob Whites. So
Can't throw a rock and not hit one.
exactly. I should mention that Robert Arleigh White, Arleigh White has over 30 years' experience overseeing and advising nonprofit arts organizations in North Florida, where he's also been active in promoting a host of arts-related community and civil rights initiatives. In recognition of over 20 years of successful legislative and community advocacy, the city of Jacksonville named August 12th Robert Arleigh White Day. Wow. And Jacksonville City Council similarly authorized a resolution in his honor. Additionally, the Cultural Council of Greater Jacksonville, where he's executive director for a bunch of years, named its most prestigious award after him. I'll jump ahead. Previously, Bob served as executive artistic director for Theater Jacksonville. He was director responsible for that artistic direction of that theater. And we'll talk about, Bob, how'd you get to Asheville then? So even before that, let me ask you this question. So as a kid, you grew up where?
Oh, golly, my dad had a really brilliant career in the Navy, so we grew up all over the planet. When I was just learning how to speak, we lived in Naples, Italy, and both of my parents worked. We stayed with an Italian family, so I'm told, I don't remember, that the first language I really spoke was Italian. Later on, between whenever I was 8 and 12, we lived in Norway. And then I went to most of my high school in Honolulu, Hawaii. And if I could, I'll tell you a story real quick.
Sure.
My very best friend in high school was this fellow who said to me, "Hey, they're having auditions after school today. We should go do that." And in that moment, he pretty much handed my life to me. And that fella, for devices of his own, also ended up in Jacksonville, Florida. And although we've gone very, very different directions in life, we've always stayed very, very close to one another. He's really been something. So even though we both come from a military background, even though we both moved around a lot, I can say here's somebody who's known me since I was 13 years old, and it's really, really been special.
We'll give you a shout out. His name is what?
His name is Leonard J. Thiessen.
Okay, so we'll make sure Leonard gets a copy of this.
I sure will. Yeah.
We're talking about him. But so you got at 13, was that when you got the bug to be in the theater world?
Probably. I think I'd always been in school pageants, always sung in the church choir, always been in places where those kinds of things felt normal and interesting to me. But in high school and then later on, it became very, very important to me to not only learn how to share my own story, but also to listen and to learn about the stories that other people wanted to share too. And I think that's one of the beautiful, beautiful things about community theater in particular, because you get to learn more about the people that you're with, the people that make your city happen, and the stories that they want to share and be a part of, and parts of their personalities that they want to explore.
Now, had you also been an actor?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
And in fact, I still do a lot of storytelling work with a woman in Jacksonville. In fact, she may be barging through the door any minute, but Charlotte Mabry is or has been the principal percussionist with the Jacksonville Symphony Orchestra, and she and I have a performing partnership that goes back for more than 30 years. So there's a great line in a Sam Shepard play where one of the characters says, "I smell your thoughts before you think them." And that's how we are with one another.
Well, I'm going to ask you a question, and it's going
Sure.
to lead to an idea as well. But the question is, so do you remember the very first performance you ever did?
Yeah, I do.
What was that?
I was in kindergarten. We were living in Lenoir, North Carolina at the time. It was a production of Peter Rabbit. And the way it was staged, all of the fairy tale characters came through to give Peter a piece of advice. I played Jack in the Beanstalk. I told Peter Rabbit where to hide in the beanstalk.
Well, I asked that for a reason, Bob. I want to share an idea with you that I shared with your predecessor, Susan Harper. I've shared with other people. Nobody's done this yet, but I'll help you with it.
Okay.
I think the great fundraising idea for Asheville Community Theatre is we should get everybody to do their very first role. Okay?
Oh my gosh.
Can you imagine that like you Peter Rabbit, do you have a videotape of that?
Yeah. No, of course not. No. That was way before the day of videotaping.
Well,
Let me tell you.
8mm or whatever. But tell me, that wouldn't be a cool fundraiser that everybody gets up, because nobody has a copy of it, and doesn't have to be the whole thing, but 5-minute segments. Wouldn't that be fun?
Well, I'll tell you a story about that too, because we celebrated Susan Harper
I know,
a couple
yeah.
of weeks ago at Asheville Community Theatre. And among the things they did was they brought actors back to perform songs, especially that were important to Susan. So here is the actor singing a song, and then behind them is a photograph of that actor in that role from 2002, 1999, whatever it was. And I know that it was certainly moving to me, and I suspect it was very moving to Susan as well. It was a beautiful night. It's a great idea.
And I was by the way, so sorry I missed the event, but I was recovering from COVID. I just gotten COVID.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear it.
But I was so disappointed because I so wanted to see it. I heard it was such a magnificent idea. But seriously, as we get to know each other, I'm volunteering to help you with it. But everybody I tell the idea to loves it,
Of course, it's a great idea.
And, just also so their kids and grandkids could see, what they look like when you were 5 years old or something. Just, we'll do that. So you tell me then, I was so excited when you came on board. You've been with ACT now for how long?
I beg your pardon?
How long have you been with the theater, Asheville Community Theatre?
Let me see here. I started, working with them back in March, but my first day in the office was May the 2nd. So I've been here for 2 months.
Okay, we were so lucky to get you, that it was just incredible. What's your reaction so far to being with Asheville Community Theatre?
It's wonderful. This really is my dream job in my dream city. I'll tell you that I've been coming to Asheville for many years. I've been here, I would say, on the average of once a quarter for decades. My mother's people are from the mountains of Western North Carolina, so I have a lot of family here. I have a lot of friends here. I feel like I know my way around. And so when the opportunity came along to apply for this position, I thought it would be just exactly perfect. And thank goodness other people did too. And, uh, and so there's a real feeling of homecoming, both with respect to the kind of work that I do and that I love to do, and with respect to this place. I have a lot of reverence for this place. I get a lot of joy from this place. It is thrilling, truly thrilling for me to be here right now.
Now, had you,
Theater has been welcoming and gracious. Everybody has been, I mean, really super to work with. One of the things that impressed me a lot right out of the box is how hard everybody works, how creatively everybody works. There's a lot of real good cheer and joy underneath all of that too. So it's really terrific.
now prior to coming on in your position, had you been to the theater? Had you seen shows here?
I have.
Yeah.
I had seen a couple of shows at ACT. I'd seen a bunch of shows at North Carolina Stage,
Right.
and a bunch of shows at Flat Rock. So, and again, a lot of my friends were in those shows. That's one of the reasons why I went and saw them, so I can see my friends perform too. So I have a good community here.
And you're pointing out kind of an interesting point, I think, Bob, is that I find theater in Asheville is just incredible. You know, all the theaters you mentioned, I've gone to them. I'm surprised we probably bumped into each other at some of them, but everything I see is like really good, you know. And the thing, it's credit to Asheville Community Theatre, especially, is that no offense to NC Stage and Flat Rock, which I love, but I, in some respects, like community theater more than professional theater because it's just a different feel for it. You know, it's just, I don't know what it is, but
Well, you're there for a different reason. You're not there. There isn't a paycheck, and so what is it that's drawing you there? And I think it must have something to do with your heart. There's nothing wrong with getting a paycheck, and in fact, I do want to give a shout out to the Magnetic Theater Company. I went and saw their production of Midsummer for Haters a couple of weekends ago. Oh my gosh, it was so good.
yeah.
Really astonishing and delightful. And then this past weekend, I got a chance to see Working at the Parkway Playhouse in Burnsville. And that's a community theater with a real lot of heart. It was, I'm telling you, I got teary a couple of times listening to those community volunteers sing those beautiful, beautiful songs right straight from their hearts. So it was really, really a great experience. But I'm finding that across the board, the level of talent, the level of experience, the level of dedication is pretty high up here in these mountains. I love that.
Where I'm a terrible theater critic is in the fact that if I know somebody's going to be in a show, I love it. You know, so
Oh yeah.
I'm just terrible. You know, like movies I can be critical of, but if I'm going to see something at Asheville Community Theatre, and I know just about all the folks, I love it. You know, it's just incredible. And it's just one of the things I do as they get to know me is that I'm kind of a groupie, I guess, but after every show, I wait for all the actors, you know, and I love seeing them and getting pictures with them. And it's just so much fun to see them and talk to them and relate to them. And they just also, you know, they're just lovely, you know, every one of them.
Isn't that exciting?
Yeah.
You know, you've just seen somebody really give 100%, every cell in their body dedicated to selling a song or performing a role. And then there they are, just being themselves right in front of you. It's comfortable, it's delightful, and it's inviting. And I think it's also exciting to people too. And I like to think anyway, that it's inspiring in the sense that it gives people that sense of, you know what, I could do that too. There's something in me that is worth sharing. I think everybody certainly has a story. But yeah, I love that feeling too. I really do.
And one of the things that Asheville Community Theatre did, which is very nice, they used to have people go after the show out the back door, you know, the stage door, and some
Right.
people would see you, but now they have after show, they come in the lobby, which is just lovely, you know, so you interact with them. It's just kind of real fun, get to be friendly with them and meet them. Were you ever in a show at Asheville Community Theatre?
No,
Oh,
sure.
you were in Florida then.
Right,
So
exactly.
that'll be down in the future. You also mentioned you direct as well?
Oh, yes. When I was at Theater Jacksonville, I directed exactly 50 plays, and I probably, over the course of my life, I've probably directed between 80 and 90 full-length plays. And it's something I really, really, really love to do. And it's funny when I think about when I was a young director, I would say to somebody, stand here, do it like this, sing it like this. And then what you have is a bunch of people doing a really terrible impression of Bob White in a role. And so what I've really, where I really take my joy today is in getting to know people and trying to figure out, well, who are you? And why are you the right one to tell the story? What is the gift that you have to bring to the table? And how can I maximize that for you so that it feels both important and joyful, so that there really is something in it for you? How do I get to watch you grow? How do I get to help you achieve and attain the goals that you have for yourself? And then how does all of this fit together with other actors, with all of the resources that the theater has to bear? How does that work so that it is just exactly perfect an experience for you and for the audience as can be?
Do you prefer acting or directing?
Well, I prefer directing, but in terms of storytelling and doing my work with Charlotte, that is my number one favorite thing. There's nothing I would rather do than be on a stage with Charlotte Mabry, because she's so elegant and easy to be with. And when you're looking at us, you're looking at us. You're not looking at us in a role. We are telling you things that we've thought about and that are important. And she is innately hilarious. And it's just fun to be with somebody like that. That is my most favorite thing to do.
Will we get to see you and Charlotte in Asheville?
I hope so. And like I say, she might be busting through this door any second. She might be a guest on this segment. For all I know.
I'll get her, yes. No, but I'd love to see you, in terms of storytelling or in a show. Or are you able to? I know some theaters allow it. Or will you ever direct, you think, something at Asheville Community Theatre?
I will. And as a matter of fact,
Great.
we've announced a season recently, and I'm going to be directing the first show out, which is a surprise to a lot of people. Not that I would direct it, but that the show would be Our Town.
Yeah,
And,
I was surprised at that.
well, if you look at all of the shows this season, all of them are meant to say something about how we live together in community. And there is no better show to tell that story.
True.
Than the Our Town story. And it's funny because people either love it or they're like, why are you doing that old thing? What do you know about it? Or what do you remember? Well, I remember I had to read it in high school. But what do you remember about it? Well, I don't really remember anything. The other day I was talking to a friend and I was going through, well, this is what happens in the play. When I got to the third act, I actually found myself getting teary. And this is a play that I know pretty well, having been an English teacher, having taught the play, having directed it a couple of times, and having played the role of the stage manager. It's a play that I know pretty well. But what I want to do with it is I want it to be a play that looks like Asheville. I want the characters to look like they've just tumbled off the street to come onto the stage to tell this story. Because even though the play was probably written not quite 100 years ago, I think it was written in the 1930s, it's still about the same basic stuff that we all go through. The first act is called birth, the second act is called love and marriage, and the third act deals with death. I mean, these are all things that are common to people, but they are special to us when we have our experience with those events. So I think it's a great way to kick off the season.
I'm trying to recall the movie. Henry Fonda, was it?
Oh my gosh. Wow. I am so unprepared for that question. I can't remember.
Me either.
But he'd have been good.
But I can you would have cast him. Well, let me ask you.
Yeah.
Were you, that was kind of cool. So were you involved at all, though, in the selection of plays for this year?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you were? Very exciting.
Very much so.
So talk about it. I saw the listing, but if you can kind of just run through the listing, Bob.
So as I say, all of the shows are about finding ourselves in community, how we live together in community. So the first one will be Our Town. The second one will be Elf, which is a Christmas story that everybody loves, but we're doing the musical version.
Right.
It's about Barry finding himself in his community or finding his way into community. The third show is a real interesting. It seems to be very successful at the community regional theater level. It's called Native Gardens, and it's about a staid traditional white couple who live outside of Washington, D.C., and they have an award-winning garden in their backyard. Well, the next door, we have a younger Hispanic couple moving in. He's a doctoral candidate, and they have a much more organic take on what a garden should look like. They don't think it should be quite so very structured or formal. And they share, these two couples, a garden wall. And, you know, from this premise, all kinds of hilarity and provocation ensue. The fourth show will be Bright Star, which is the marvelous Steve Martin, Edie Brickell vehicle that tells so much of the story of the Appalachian Mountains. And
But by the way, if I can just jump in, you probably have heard that SAWT did it about 2 years ago. They did it, you know, so I don't know if you've been there yet, but Southern Appalachian Repertory Theater, they did a magnificent job on it, you know, so it's,
Star?
yeah, they just did it, and it was,
Wonderful.
and by the way, contact SAWT, but if you get some of that cast, it was just, they were incredible, you know, but have you ever seen the show?
No, I mean, I've seen little snippets of it. Obviously, I've read it and I know the music.
But I'm getting a chill, but what a great, you know, show to do.
Yeah.
So that's the fourth show, and the fifth is?
Bat Boy the Musical.
Oh.
Yeah, it's very quirky and
I know
odd,
it.
but I've seen it so many times and I love it so much. But it's based on that old tabloid story of
Right.
finding the Bat Boy in the cave, half bat, half boy, and bringing him into somebody's home and sort of inculcating him into community. It has some dark moments, but mostly it's hilarious and tricky, and it has engendered a whole lot of enthusiasm from among people in the Asheville theater community. They're really looking forward to either seeing it or being in it, which I think is a marvelous thing.
Well, what I love about the season is that, first of all, Bat Boy hasn't been done in the area for maybe 8-10 years, you know, or something. And most of the other stuff, you know, the native one I'm not familiar with. Our town I've never seen in the area, you know, so it's really exciting that you're doing some stuff that people don't ordinarily see, you know.
Right.
Because,
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
oh, no, I'm telling you, because several years ago, the problem in Asheville is that all these local theaters, and they're all good, but one year, I forgot to show Bob, 3 people did the same show in 1 year, you know, which is not
Holy
good.
smokes. Yeah.
You know, so here, I love getting to see some stuff I don't see elsewhere. And just a reminder, I think I mentioned to you on email, but, you know, anytime I'd be glad to do a show on it, you know, and meet a director or one of the performers, and,
Great.
you know, if I can help promote it, because you guys do such good work, you know, it's just incredible. So that's the season. I'll ask you just a couple other questions here. You have also, talk a little bit about your other theater you have at Asheville Community Theatre. So it's the main stage, and then you have the other stage.
The 35 Below.
Right. Talk about
Right.
that.
Well, that is a sort of an alternative kind of a theater place, which allows people to explore. And you know what? My friend Charlotte Mabry that I told you about
Right.
has just walked in the door. I'm going to invite her to stick her
Okay,
face.
sure. We'll get to say hello. Hello there.
Partner Charlotte right here.
Did you hear us talking about you?
Oh, no, but if it was good, I'll get it all from Bob.
I'm going to tell her all about it.
Nice seeing you, Charlotte.
It's good. Nice to see you, dear.
Okay, great. Thanks, Bob. That was funny. So we'll wrap up
I
quickly.
told you she was coming.
Yeah, just talk a little bit about then the other theater you have.
Well, sure. It seats about 40 people. It's an alternative theater space, so we can do things a little bit more edgy, maybe not as technically demanding, but it's also a place for people to try things out. That's what I think is the best part about it. You get to try things out, and it's a safe environment. It's an encouraging environment. You're supported by theater professionals. It's a remarkable resource, I think, for people who are interested in learning more about the craft of theater.
Yeah. Do you have any of the shows in front of you? Do you have any shows that they're doing this coming year?
We've not scheduled them yet.
Okay.
What we're going to do is put out a call so that people can submit applications for things that they want to do. And you can look for that later on in the summertime.
Because I'll just invite any viewers to check it out. Because again, as you said, Bob, I get to see stuff there that I never see anywhere else. You know,
Right.
so that was really exciting. Sometimes they're quirky, sometimes they're funny, but to me, which is very exciting. I don't see it elsewhere. Bob, I know you're up against the clock. Let me just ask you, if folks want to get in touch with Asheville Community Theatre, find out more about the upcoming season, auditions, all the good stuff, what's the best bet?
I would say our Facebook page, Asheville Community Theatre, or write to us or check in at our website. It's easy to communicate with us from the website, which is ashevilletheatre.org.
By the way, and you spell theater how?
THEATRE. I'm so glad you asked that question.
The right way. Okay.
The phone number is 828-254-1320.
Okay, I'll just have you repeat it.
828-254-1320.
Okay, and I'll encourage anybody watching or listening, if you want to have a good day or night at the theater, get to Asheville Community Theatre. You're going to love it. And we also will get to see, hopefully, Bob in live and in person. Is that correct?
Yes, I hope so too. Blaine, this was a real treat for me. Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks for being my guest on this second half hour on the Blaine's World Show, and we'll see you sometime in the near future. Be well.
Yes, sir. Okay.
Okay. As Bob
Bye-bye.
works his way out, I'll just thank everybody for watching, and hopefully we'll see you next Wednesday, same time, same place. Thanks.